All right, and we're back. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Praxis Guild, Praxis Pedagogy Stream 2, the student experience with COVID and TVET. And we have two very special guests with us today. We have James and Mike. And so I won't do any more intros. Ed, do you want to intro who these fine young men are?
Yeah, they're just two students who are just finishing up our mechanical techniques plumbing programs, post-secondary program at Durham College in Whitby, Ontario. And I was lucky enough to rope them in, so I'm glad they're here to answer some questions.
Good. Well, it's good to have you, Mike and James. So, Ed, why don't you go ahead and ask the first couple questions for us?
Okay, yep. The first question is just kind of centers around when we were teaching, guys were in class face to face in March, and when you heard the news that we were going from face to face, obviously because of COVID-19, and then switching a week after onto online, what were your first initial thoughts or feelings about it? And I'll start with, I guess, Mike first.
Well, I don't really know how I felt in the moment because everything was shutting down, right? Like it wasn't just school; it was the NHL, the NBA. Everything was kind of so my whole life kind of got uplifted, and just like the traditional route of being in school is so much easier for me than being online. So although that the theory classes and the code classes can be taught online, it still was kind of distant for me to do it because it wasn't that face-to-face feeling that you would have traditionally in the first semester, right?
Good.
And James, yourself?
Yeah, I didn't think it would happen. I certainly didn't want it to happen. I was in elementary school when H1N1 pandemic was going on, and they kept us in school through the whole pandemic. So I certainly didn't expect them to pull us out of the classrooms and put everything online when the COVID started getting bad. But yeah, I've adjusted to it. It's been all right.
And you, as Mike, you were talking there about being upheaval. I know myself as being the teacher. I know I had to experience a lot different because I had my boys at home, trying to help them teach online too, as well as jump in obviously with you guys online and answering emails, whatever it may be. I'm just kind of what kind of challenges did you guys face that weren't the normal one when you were face to face? Like was there stuff in your background that was preventing you from learning or?
Well, I just think being out of the classroom atmosphere, it's difficult to kind of engage unless you're like fully like you get yourself sat down in a new seat, kind of away from all your distractions and kind of just give her. Like that's what I would do for the tests. But like situation for some of the classes, I found it would be hard to keep my focus for some of them. But that was just me.
And James, yourself?
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. There's a lot of distractions at home. I have trouble staying focused more when I'm on the computer learning through the lecture rather than in the classroom. And it's a very different environment learning through the computer on the digital lectures rather than in the classroom. You don't have people in the room with you or in front of the board or with sheets of paper. It's so different.
And to add to that, every instructor would kind of have their own way of doing it because it's new for the instructors too. Everyone would attack it a different way. So you would have like kind of I don't know, I'm looking for a word, I can't really find it right now, but it would be like, it wouldn't be the same from class to class, if that makes sense. So each instructor would deliver a different way. So you would either like how one instructor did it and not how another one did it, but another personality can be completely opposite, right? So,
yeah, that's a good point.
That's very true. Yes.
And I was going to say, you guys probably between your different classes were using like different technology for your like live sessions, let's say. So there was different. So you probably had to learn some new stuff. I'm assuming.
Yeah. So you were using Microsoft Teams, and most of the other teachers were using the virtual classroom on DC Connect there. But like that wasn't really an issue for me. It was more so the delivery of how they taught. Like if they were just sending a PowerPoint out, or if they like for you would come on the stream and you would answer any questions, which is a good thing. But I think that everyone just had a different way of learning, right? And you're not going to be able to satisfy everyone doing it one way.
Yeah, this actually isn't my first time in college. I did 3 years a few years ago, and this is the very first time in all those years that I've done online. So I had to learn a lot of stuff to get used to it. Yeah, I've never done Microsoft Teams or over the DC servers. None of that.
Mm-hmm.
So just so people understand, because this is YouTube and going live and not just hanging out in one province. There is a slight difference in apprenticeship training between Ontario and BC. So when Mike, when you and James are talking about your experience with different instructors, do you have different classes for your plumbing apprenticeship or plumbing school and different instructors within those classes, or do you have one instructor for the whole day?
No, it would be a different instructor for each class, or some, like Ed would teach math and theory, but you'd have like about 5 courses in your semester, and usually you would have a different teacher for every single one.
Okay.
In the case that Ed would teach too, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I've had 4 different teachers for this semester. Each one teaches a specialized subject.
Wow. And so you were saying that the diversity between those instructors and how they approached the online learning environment was different. So there was no continuity.
Yeah,
between one
exactly.
class and
Continuity
another.
was different. Like, I think it shocked the college. So the college didn't really have anything in place for you had the instructors to dive into it. So each instructor had to do their own thing. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
that makes
that's
total sense.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the? Oh,
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask. I was going to ask what they, as far as the online, they've been online for a while now, since March. So they finished up the last 4 weeks in March, and then they moved into their second semester. I was wondering. I think I know based on what you're saying, but what the online learning part? What would you say was the part that you didn't like the most, that you hated the most, right, about online learning that you discovered?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Okay.
I want to say just for me, it's harder to tap into wanting to do the classes when it's online right from your bedroom or your house, rather than going to school is a lot different for me. Just my focus, my attention span would be more on the topic in class rather than in my room. But that's just an issue that I have. But that was my biggest takeaway from it.
Yeah, at times I had a hard time being disciplined with listening to the content. Like sometimes I would feel like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch it live. I'll come back to it tomorrow or something. So it was hard to stay on my toes with it. Hard to stay awake during lectures, honestly.
Yeah, I would find myself kind of reviewing the lectures when I had the when I wanted to, rather than going at that certain time when you were live or whatever. So yeah. It's all on you. You're a grown man, right? So you take care of it whenever you want. But when you're going to class, like you're not gonna have a pre-recorded class to go to, right? You're gonna go to class and you get that done with.
Yeah. So do you think that being in class and being face to face helps with your motivation to stay on track? I mean, obviously you're in class and you're almost forced to keep pace.
Yeah.
But with the COVID switch, you're missing that. So if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, what you're saying, sorry, that piece, that face-to-face piece was an important motivational component for you guys.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. What about the interaction and feedback between you and some of the other people that you were going in your classes with? Did you have much kind of back channel chatting or online chatting or any of that going on to help support you guys?
For me personally, I wouldn't say I did, but I know there was people that had kind of like text message groups going on and stuff. But I was kind of doing my own thing because it was a short program, right? It was like January to August, so you have the time to meet people, but you're not like in a 4-year program where you're developing more of a connection to people. But I'd say since it was such a short program, you're kind of just like, for me, I would do my own thing. I don't know if James was different, if anyone else was different, but yeah.
Yeah, I was on my own for a great deal of it. I know that a few people were talking through one of Ed's Microsoft Teams servers, but that wasn't me. I was isolated for a great deal of it, and at times it would have been nice.
There were things to get together and communicate with, but that's online again, right? So it's not like you have that face-to-face interaction. You actually have to go to the actual discussion board and get involved, and you're going to be waiting for a response. You're not going to get your response right away. So just the wait, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, how did you guys have any shop time?
Yes. We had 4 weeks of shop, I believe, for a plumbing practice. And we're also doing welding, which we did, I think, 5 classes so far, and we have 1 more left. So that's 4 hours per class. That's 24 hours of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still reduced from what we would normally get.
And so how are they making sure that everything's going well and I guess safe, and how is that being handled? I mean, I don't want to put you guys on the spot and all that stuff, but from your experience, how's that going?
Yeah, they've been careful with it. They keep the class size reduced. They make us wear face masks at all times. In plumbing practice, they made us wear face shields as well as the masks, so they cover they cover your eyes and your mouth area. And we sanitize coming into the room every time we come in, and we have to scrub down our materials after we're done with the day. Yeah.
And so were your practicals or your lab stuff, were they downsized or decreased because of people just not being able to help out, or space being limited?
Yeah, they were reduced from the first semester, but they would, I don't know, they put out all the practices in place, but people would still have to practice them, right? They'd have to do their due diligence and standing 6 feet away from somebody else and not trying to get into personal space. So
right.
I think I'm not mistaken. Even some of the instructors I had spoken to, like I didn't do it myself, were saying that it was kind of hard because they had to remind students we have to be separated, right? And it's hard because you're used to that. You're in the school environment. I think they would attest to. They've been away for school for a while, so they couldn't. When they all got together, they all had a common thing to talk about, right? So you wanted to huddle together, right? And even on the job the jobs, right? You always want to talk to each other, right? So I'm sure it was pretty hard. I can only imagine, because I like talking, so I like to be close to people and talk to them. So I can imagine how hard it was for them.
Yeah, you can't touch somebody's shoulder. That sort of stuff. You can't do the physical contact we take for granted. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that must have been a big change, right? And then all the gear on top of it. And what do you think that had a significant impact on your learning in the labs, or did you just adapt to it pretty quickly and off you go?
I was able to adapt pretty quickly. Like, the face shield really helped. If they had the safety goggles going on with the mask, you'd be constantly breathing in the goggles. So it was kind of very annoying to kind of work with that. But they had the face shields there, and that kind of eliminated that problem. So it didn't really bother me at all, honestly.
Yeah, I adapted by the end of the first day, I'd say.
Oh, so it was pretty quick then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. So you guys are near the end of your training session now, or have you completed yet?
We're pretty much right at the end. Like, the welding class is finishing up, but every other class has, I think, wrapped up for us. If I'm not.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so moving forward, like somebody in the chat has asked, are learners still wanting to continue to study, or students wanting to take a break? So I don't know if you guys have the opportunity to do back-to-back, like we kind of do back-to-back sometimes here in BC, knowing what you know now. If COVID situation doesn't change, let's say you're ready to come back to school in the spring next year, and nothing's changed, would you hold off a while and see if things were going to change, or would you just roll right in and continue on?
Well, for me personally, I came into this program after getting laid off, so I didn't really have time to wait. I stuck with the program because I didn't have an alternative.
Yeah, for me, I was trying to do the exact same thing. I saw it was a shorter program, and it was an opportunity to kind of get my foot in the door in the industry. And it sucks that the COVID happened, because it took away a lot of job opportunities that would happen this year. But if I were to go back, I'm not really a school guy, so I wouldn't want to go back to school regardless of the situation. So, yeah.
And the thing that these guys were doing that was the post-secondary program. So the earliest that they would be coming back for their apprenticeship training would probably be like a year from now. If they so they had a sponsor, like a person who they hired them, so they would probably have a year away. I mean, but still, I think I know myself. I probably have second thoughts about coming back, right? Because depending on based on what these guys are saying, it sounds like the in person is a big component, right?
If you were sorry about that. Go on.
No, go ahead. I wasn't going to say anything else.
Oh, I was going to say if I were to come back to school because I had the an apprenticeship opportunity and I was going to be leveling up through the apprenticeship with the school, I would go back just because that's going to advance my career, and I wouldn't be against doing it because it's online. I would just get it done to get it done, regardless of it.
Right.
Yeah, I'd get it done to get it done as well. If I have to do it online or in person, I'll do it online, even if I find it less preferable.
Yeah, because it sounds like the end goal is to get your apprenticeship done, get the hours done.
Yeah, exactly.
Write that IP and move on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the things I'm curious about is some of the things that teachers did, like a certain thing they did, whether when it changed to online, that you think was very helpful. That even though it was online, was not your preferred thing. Was there something that someone did, or a technique or whatever? I don't know what the words to use, but something that they did that made it acceptable, I guess.
I'd say the videos that you made on YouTube, kind of going over the like the assignments and that type of stuff, kind of were even easy to follow along with. Like, I think you're the only teacher that made YouTube videos, so that was always a good reference. A lot of other teachers just had the virtual classroom and their pre-recordings to go back to, just kind of like a traditional lecture. You know what I mean? So just the different ways of learning, like the video rather than the classroom environment, would be different.
Yeah, I found I've seen the YouTube videos that Ed made as well, and I like how visually oriented they were, as opposed to just speaking into the microphone and the camera on your computer. So that's one aspect that was missing from a lot of stuff. But yeah, I liked being able to see the drawings and the other diagrams made. Yeah.
Does it make a difference to you whether or not you actually see an instructor on the screen? Like that, does it make a difference if it's just the voice and an avatar, or actually seeing an instructor visually in front of you when they're lecturing or talking? Does that make a difference, do you think?
I think in the total video, it'd be nice to have that kind of introduction with the face on the screen kind of going over what they're going to go over. And then if they want to get rid of the face on the screen, then I'm good with that. But just that kind of brings like the face-to-face to the video, although you're not in face-to-face, because you're kind of getting personal before diving into what you got to dive into.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like the face camera more. It makes things more personable. And I had one teacher who was frequently bringing objects onto the screen to show us, like pipe diagrams that he had built. That was nice.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And of course,
Ed,
you got all the kids and the dogs in the background barking and yelling and screaming. Kind of opens up a whole new world for everybody, right? And it's like, oh yeah, he's human too. He's a dad. He's got kids, and they're freaking out just like my kids do. Yeah.
Ed, can you give us a description of this video that they're talking about? Like, what was it? Just a rundown, like just an intro video of the course, or can you just give us a little?
I think they were like referring like, so we were doing different types of plumbing drawings. I think that's the one they're referring to the most. That's it. I had another video on another topic altogether, which had pictures of me talking. But the one with the drawings, I think I broke it down to a couple of videos where I was doing a couple of pieces at a time to try and keep it in smaller videos, which I thought were smaller. They might have been long to some people, but I thought were pretty small. But I was just trying to do that step through, because I even thought to myself, if we were doing face-to-face, I might have drawn it on the board or used some projector and kind of worked it through them, which I could do online. But I thought maybe if I have these smaller chunk videos as a resource, it might be useful, right? So, and And it's actually, I know they might be surprised to hear this, but it's not something I had used in the past. It's something that I just use now, which I think I would use in the future.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
One of the
so-
questions in the. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go
I was
ahead.
gonna say that's a good point. How Ed made his videos kind of more short and sweet to the point, rather like than making one long one, because you're not really fishing through the video trying to find what you got to find. Like he would label the video like kind of assignment 1. This is how like what it's gonna look like, and kind of run through it like step by step by step, rather than putting it in like a half-hour video where you'd have to like individually with no timestamp to go to, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you like having those pre-recorded videos then, preferably to say a live lecture?
Yeah, I would say so. Just because, well, it's hard to say. So, because there was one instructor who would not record his lecture, so he would make you tune into the class at that time, which would be a good thing to keep you accountable. But the pre-recorded lectures would be good just to do it whenever you got to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like pre-recorded lectures because you can return them to them at any time. Yeah, but sometimes a live lecture one is good as well because you might have a specific question or situation you'd like further insight on that you can't really get out of a pre-recorded lecture that you can't talk back, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm even thinking about, sorry, Chad. It's also thinking about like you're doing your shop classes, whether it be, soldering or cutting pipe or whatever, different aspects of putting stuff together for projects. I'm thinking, that would be obviously very useful too, right? If you think about it, that if you went to the shop class, the instructor showed you how to do this, whatever it was, for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, that if you had it recorded, that you could look at it down the road. Like, today we didn't do this, but tomorrow I'm going to be working on this project, or 2 days from now I'm going to be working on this project. Hey, it'd be good. I can go look up this video again of how to do, X, Y, Z, just to kind of refresh your memory, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to tech, one of the things that we often hear about is we have to keep in mind the fact that our students, our apprentices, don't always have laptops and that they're working from phones or even tablets. Was that your guys' experience? And tell us a little bit more about your experience with the actual tech and the integration with it.
I didn't really have an issue with it. I have a laptop. I have a phone. Like I'm pretty technically inclined, so I didn't have that big an issue kind of adapting to that. So couldn't really speak on that.
Yeah, I got a good personal computer, but I did have to get a microphone for the classes. I didn't have one in the first semester when we first stopped the classes in person, so I had to get one before the second semester rolled around. And yeah, it was a big help getting that. But yeah, the computer was no issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that your instructors did for you to help you navigate your learning management system that you're using for your classes?
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
So you guys what learning management system are you guys using at? I can't remember if it's Brightspace, D2L.
Yeah, we use that. Yeah, we call it DC Connect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. DC Connect.
Right. Yeah.
So, was there anything that your instructors did to make navigating that system easier for you, access wise, finding information, anything like that, or was it just pretty straightforward and simple on its own?
I'd say it's pretty straightforward and simple on its own, just because we used it in the first semester too. It's not like they just introduced DC Connect because of COVID. Like we had DC Connect for the whole thing. So the announcements would be pretty like it's easy for the announcement to show up and you be able to see what's going on, right? So
yeah, the announcement function is very useful. DC Connect is well organized on its own, but the announcements give people that extra level of organization, keeps them on track.
Right. Good.
Can you guys speak to your experience with the exams? Because that's a big question that keeps coming up, is how are our students taking exams, and what are your experiences with the exams? So I know some schools are using proctoring and all that. I'd just love to hear what your perspective is on that. Do you have an issue with it? Did you like it? Is it fine?
It was an exam, right? Like it was online, so it was pretty easy, honestly. Like in our aspect because they like our instructors wanted us to succeed, so they would have all the information through the PowerPoints. They wouldn't throw any curveballs at us for the most part. So if the information was all there, it was a matter of going and doing it. So yeah, an exam's an exam. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. An exam's an exam. I'm used to the in-person ones because I've done them far more than online ones, but I'll take an online one if I have to.
Was there any difference then, really, aside from the fact that you can have resources close by to help you out, but I mean, you both agree an exam is an exam. So, honestly, aside from having students beside and behind you, is there any difference when you're sat down to take the exam for the experience of it?
For me personally, I would just make sure I had no distractions around me throughout that point. Like some of the classrooms, I would have distractions around me, so I wouldn't be fully engaged. But when the exam came around, I kind of had my own little spot for myself and just kind of tuned into it, right? So.
Yeah, it's a different format, the online stuff. Like in online, people use the multiple choice question format far more frequently than they do something like written answer because it's just simpler to program into the computer and simpler to mark in the long run. I have my notes here when I'm doing my exams. There was no one that said I couldn't do that. But yeah, it's a very different environment. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm assuming other like programs, maybe like some university programs that have more of a strict like no notes around you type of thing like that. But for our aspect, like we didn't have those restrictions, so we could have the PowerPoint kind of open. We could have our notes with us. So it's just a matter of doing it, right?
What's the job situation like out where you guys are? Is it difficult finding sponsors for you guys?
Well, that's where I am currently right now. I'm just kind of school's wrapping up. I'm kind of using this week to reach out to like family, friends, and people like that, just trying to like see if anyone is available. But the thing is, most of these companies I'm talking to are say get in the union first, and then we'll take you on. So it's like if there's no union intake, it's going to be hard to get into the job market, right?
Is there? Sorry, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I was talking with one man starting about a few weeks ago. I was trying to organize an apprenticeship opportunity with him, and I don't know if it's because of the COVID pandemic or something else, but he disappeared off the face of the earth. I don't know where he is. Haven't been able to reach out to him again. So yeah, it's stuff like that. It's a chaotic environment finding work in.
How much of the job market, Ed, is dedicated to the union sector?
I can't say for sure. I just know that through the union sector, from what I heard, there was still a lot of people who were laid off because of COVID-19, and there wasn't that many projects carrying on. It was just more like important things like hospitals that had to go on, and so there's a lot of people who are I know a lot of people who are still laid up from COVID-19. But probably half of them are still laid up. They were laid off. So I think things are kind of slowly getting back. So I think it's gonna be more of a challenge for them. Just like Mike was alluding to there, the local union near us that I'm a part of does it every July intake for the last 10 years at least.
Yeah. And
they canceled it, postponed it. I was just reaching out the other day, and he doesn't think it's going to happen probably until next year. Now they're going to because they want to have more intake because they know that there's a lot of turnover happening. So they've been trying to take 20. It's not very big local compared to the one like Toronto, but so they take a good handful every year, getting ready for this turnover. And but I guess based on the fact that there's people out of work, they know the turnover is not happening right away. They don't need it right away, so they're kind of holding off on things too.
Sorry, James, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. I was just going to follow up with that. So is construction slowed down quite a bit in your area? Because out here in the West, man, it's almost like it had a speed bump, but that was it.
In the GTA, they put a pause on it for a while. They started to resume 1 or 2 months ago. But private service was still active, but in reduced capacity, and public works like large buildings, they were on pause for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, it was only like main. The government only had like main infrastructure projects that were, like I said, like hospitals and stuff. Were continuing. Everything else eventually paused all the way down to nothing. So, but it's ramping back up, obviously, because other places are opening up, other stores, other places. We're farther along on the stage now.
What about you, Chad? Your students, have they experienced any significant layoffs or delays going back to work? I mean,
it's exactly as you described it to him. It was a speed bump, like right in the heart of it when it all started happening. Like at the end of March, there was talks of layoffs, and some of the bigger projects slowed down or shut down. But now it's ramping up. I get emails once in a while from a couple contractors out there looking for people, so it seems to be really picking up. I mean, it's a busy time anyways. Summertime and fall is busy in the construction here, but it doesn't seem to have significantly made it that huge a difference. People are still getting work. It's still quite busy out there.
Yeah. Wow.
If you don't mind, I have two questions I would like to ask James and Mike. The one question is, first of all, so if you were the students are starting in the fall and they're going online, right? So they didn't do the face-to-face. They're going online as a mix of like hybrid with the shops and stuff. What would your piece of advice to new students starting out online, based on the experience you had, that you think you would want to get to them to make it a lot easier?
Check your information feed every day, probably 2 or 3 times a day, because if you miss an important email, then it'll ruin the rest of your semester. And check your announcements on your school server as well, like DC Connect for us. Yeah, stay up to date.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would say stay up to date. Always be checking that, like you're checking your watch almost. Like make sure you don't miss any announcements. And so they're going to be going back kind of with the same thing we had going on at the end of the semester here with like shop classes and then online theory classes type of thing. Is that what they're going to be doing?
Yeah, they're doing the exact same thing you're doing. So everything will be online that can be online, and then all the practical hands-on stuff will be in person.
I'll like just commit to it, right? If you're gonna do it, you're gonna know what you're gonna sign up for right now. It's not like gonna be us where we're signing up to expect to go to school and face-to-face for everything. Like you're signing up knowing that you're gonna have online classes and shop classes, which isn't a bad thing, but you're gonna have that knowledge before signing up. So if you're gonna sign up, then just stick with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. And the other question I had, put yourselves in the shoes of a teacher. If you were to give a teacher who's starting off in the fall online, being obviously from your student perspective, what piece of advice would you give to them?
I'm sorry, I had someone come to my door right in the middle of that question. So can you just repeat kind of?
Yeah, no problem. It might not be worded the same, but we'll try it. So anybody who's teaching in the fall, whether it be their first time teaching online or they're teaching online again, what would you give them as a personal piece of advice from a student as they tackle the online and thinking about their students?
I would say keep on trying something new until you find something that works for you, that you see engagement with your students. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't be stuck in your own ways of doing something because there could be something else that you could be doing that you could do it one week and you could get more engagement, and then you could just run with it, right? Just be open to trying new things, I would say.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get friendly with the technology for sure. My father is a college teacher as well, actually, and he's been teaching for about 9 years, and this is the first time he's had to do anything online. He's never even done quizzes over the computer. So yeah, you be prepared to accept the technology and the new things.
And if I could ask you to kind of expand there, actually, Mike, as far as the connection, is it what do you think of any ways that we can connect a lot more to our students when we're online? Because I know we're not face to face. I know it's not the same, and I know myself. I kind of miss it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see your face today, so it makes me happy because I never got to see anybody's face when we were online.
Yeah.
So, what do you? Is there anything you think we could do to make ourselves more connected?
Like as stupid as it sounds, like kind of making it mandatory to kind of tune into class. Like a lot of kids aren't going to want to go into class, so just the one teacher that I forget who it did it, but I think it was the other Ed. He didn't want any of his property like recordings on DC Connect, so he would make you tune into the virtual classroom and he wouldn't record it, type of thing. So because there wasn't going to be a recording, you would have to tune into class while you were talking to them. So that would probably have more engagement, but is everyone going to like that? I don't think so. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. That's all
okay.
I can.
That's good. That's good. No, it's okay.
Yeah, to expand on that, I don't think it's the best idea to make classes exclusively live. I think it's good to have pre-recordings because in this chaotic situation, people have stuff going on in their lives, be it unusual hours at work or something that may prevent them from attending during scheduled periods. So yeah, do the live class, but please record it.
Yeah,
that's good points. Good points. Is there anything that makes a class more engaging for you guys, like in this environment?
No, like honestly, I'm I'm like a hands-on guy, man. Like I want to get my hands dirty. I want to be able to do it. Like
Right.
doing something through the screen, I'll lose my focus. It's hard for me. So it's hard. You got to talk to someone that likes to do this type of stuff online. But yeah.
But actually,
I was just going to say, stop beating around the bush.
yeah.
Tell us how you
really think. But that's important though, Mike, because you're actually and I'll use the term that you're the demographic that we're concerned about the most, because those who engage online, they'll engage and they do it, right? But you're like most people who go into trades. They like working with their hands. They like building things. They like fiddling around with things. They even like destructing things to see how they work. So you're very hands-on that way, and online obviously isn't very hands-on. So the question now becomes even more important for us as educators, because we come from that background. We are like that too, but we often forget that there's a separation of age and context and all that other stuff. So when I ask you the question, what would help you be more engaged in an online environment, it's actually a really important question for me, because you're the kind of person that I'm really trying to think about when I build my online course, right? And same with you, James. I'm really trying to think about you guys the most when I'm building this course. So the question I'll gently toss it back to you and say, what do you think I could do to make an online session a little more engaging for you?
Well, I like the visual aids. I mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
Like if it's just you with your face camera talking into the microphone, that's difficult to engage with. But if you incorporate something that allows me to see what I'm doing, I may not be able to touch it like I would in the in-person classes. But if I could just get that extra level of engagement through looking at something like the pipe diagrams I was talking about earlier, that's very useful. Yeah.
Maybe even having like a workbook delivered to your students before the semester begins, so you can kind of follow along with it. Like you have that physical workbook in front of you. That would help me, because you like flip the page or whatever, like 3 today, we're going to look at the pipe diagram here. But there was no like preparation for the second semester for us, right? So it was just kind of like for Ed, he had to just deal with it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike, because I know in some of the classes that we teach in our department, we have books that we hand out to our apprentices when they show up, and that book contains the whole level that they're going to be going through, right? And so it's very easy to say, okay, today's Tuesday or Wednesday, August 19th, we should be on page whatever, and we're going to get through to page whatever today. So that's a good point. Did any of your instructors engage in any kind of discussion during their lecture, or was it pretty much, okay, so today we're going to talk about, multi-story venting, or we're going to talk about underground piping systems, and they just go and you would listen and take notes, or did they try to be interactive with you guys online or not?
Yeah, they did, but they did it in different approaches. Like one teacher, he would ask questions throughout the throughout the lecture, and we were supposed to respond, and he considered that his form of engagement. Another, it was more so you give the content up front and then do more of a discussion with questions at the end of the lecture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you guys get involved in any kind of group projects? Like, did your instructors ever use like a breakout room or throw you into like an area where you'd meet with like 3 or 4 other students and talk through things?
No.
We did one breakout room in the first semester, but none in the second. And in the second, we didn't do any group projects online. We did one in the shop in groups of 3, but that's the shop, not the online.
Right.
Would that help, do you think? Like, if you had a group project, an online group project, would that be an activity you think might help make things engaging for you as students?
Well, probably, because you would be accountable to show up for your group, right? So you would have to schedule a time to talk to your group and get that project done. So it probably would help if you had little groups of 3 or 4 kind of getting more in depth of the discussion topics and ideas that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably. That would be a difficult task, doing a project over the internet. But yeah,
that would be difficult for sure.
Yeah, but feasible if you work it out. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of planning that has to go into projects like that. But I think if designed well, I think they could be really fun.
Yeah, and like just your group, like you don't know who your group members would be. You know what I mean? Yeah. And online, like they could hide behind their computers. They could not even show up, right? Like it's not like they have to the consequences of not doing their work when they're not showing up to a Zoom call or they're not having to sit in front of you. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
You just face that type of challenge.
Sure.
Same as any group, or it's like that meme that's out there of The Hangover, that movie, The Hangover. Those guys, it's like this is a typical group project. The guy that does all the work, the guy that does some of the work, and then the guy that just disappears. Until the end of the project.
I call him the social loafer.
Yeah.
Like if you have that type of challenge when it's like hands-on, that challenge is just gonna be like exponentially more online, right? Because it can get people to like not even show up.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that you're going to find that when you get a job and you're out in industry as well. Maybe you get on crews where you have that one that ghosts on the project and kind of shows up once in a while. And the foreman's around, they're around, but when the foreman's gone, they're gone. So
yeah.
The other thing I was kind of curious about too was the fact that I know myself that I've reduced the actual hours online, the actual live sessions. I tried to do, I guess, synchronous, asynchronous, so stuff online, as well as interactive live online. I guess maybe I'm saying this all wrong, but I'm just curious because one of the students who's not here today, who gave me some feedback on questions on a video, when I asked them, one of the things that they didn't like was actually the shortening of the actual live hours, the live session hours, and which I was kind of surprised when I heard the answer, because I heard a lot of people saying they liked it short because they were having a hard time tuning in, or not tuning in, but keeping their focus, right? So they kind of wanted the live sessions to be a little bit shorter, get to the point, do some activities, whatever. And so I just wonder what you guys kind of thought. I'm sure that a lot of the sessions maybe were not as long as the actual class time, and most of it was online. But how do you feel about that?
I would agree with you, man. Like our code class with Craig, it was a 3 gruesome hours, man. Like 3 to sometimes you push 4 hours. You're sitting in front of your screen, and like, how can you really sit in front of your screen for 4 hours listening to someone talk about plumbing code, right? Like, you can love plumbing, but you can't talk about code for 4 hours. So,
what do you mean? I love it. I could talk for 10 hours.
I can't do that. So, I'm more of a short and sweet type of guy. Like, get to the point, say what you got to say, show us the activity we have to do, and if we have more questions, have the opportunity to reach out, which you guys did. Yeah, live hours where you can go ask questions. That's also been the thing that you did. So, yeah.
Yeah, the 3-hour course was very difficult to sit through. 1 hour was much more manageable. Uh-huh.
And I guess that's where the pre-recorded videos would come into play too, because especially in a code course,
exactly.
right? Because I've taught code for I think everybody has to go teach code at least one point in their teaching career. But I agree with you. And our class times, Mike, are 6-hour days. So can you imagine talking about code for 6 hours a day for 2.5 weeks straight? Like
It all blends together after a few hours.
That's right, baby. It just all blends, and then try to capture attention when it gets back to circuit venting. Like, okay, but you make a good point, James, in that 1 hour lecture is really important. Then, and I wonder if that's a good connection to have some pre-recorded stuff to go over the basics of the code. And then to bring the class in and to finish off, maybe top off that lecture, and then have Q&A or application time, right? And here share some drawings through the screen and go, this is what it would look like, and how would we do this, and maybe more problem solving. I wonder if that would be a way to engage you guys a little bit more, a little deeper, so to speak.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
So did you guys have any office hours, like availability to talk to your instructors outside of regular scheduled school time, or how did that happen at all? Or, and then if it did it work for you? Did you care?
I'm pretty sure Ed offered it, but I never used it, honestly. So I know that I think he started his classes as he would go over them, and then it kind of morphed into kind of posting the material before, and then kind of having the class come back and kind of talk about if anyone had questions and stuff, which I think was a good thing to do. But I just never would ask the questions. I wouldn't be in the student in the class to go to ask. So I would just kind of figure it out myself through the pre-recorded things he posted through the videos and stuff. That was my type of learning. But I'm sure there were students that had to tune into the online face-to-face chat to ask their questions.
Right.
Yeah, Ed was the only one out of the 4 teachers that I had who had a dedicated office hour time. With the rest of them, if I had to get in touch with them, I would use email, and they're usually pretty prompt with their email responses. So
okay, cool. Did you guys find that there was a difference in amount and effort for prep time to get ready for a live session, or kind of gather yourself in the aftermath of a live session, a 3-hour code session? Did you find being online any different than being in the class face-to-face in regards to your prep time to get ready?
Yeah, some courses were harder than others for preparation for online lectures. The hardest one for sure would be the code lecture, codes, regulations, and standards. I had to have my my tables and my notes with me, or else I wouldn't be able to keep up with responses and engagement. But for most of them, it wasn't as hard as that. No, not.
Yeah, I would agree with James.
Yeah, I can imagine being online would, because I just go back to the years that I taught code, and it's just so easy to go, okay, everybody turn to page this in your code book. We're going to look at this situation. We're going to go through these 3 or 4 tables, and yeah, I can imagine that would be somewhat difficult to get ready for in an online environment, for sure. For sure. Well, we're creeping up to our time limit, and Chad, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask these fine young gentlemen, even though they are plumbers and not quite electricians yet?
It just goes to show we can all get along, right?
It does.
No,
yeah.
I appreciate all your time.
Too.
That's why I've got to be very careful how I say these things. So it is virtual, so I can just go ahead and troll you.
Oh yeah.
I appreciate you guys' time. I appreciate your candor, and just I think that people who are going to be watching this are going to get a lot of great information from you two. So I just want to say thank you for your time. It's very, very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, deeply appreciate it. And I hope we didn't put you on the spot too much with one of your own professors here staring you in the face with some of these questions going, yeah, Ed was great. Everybody else, well, not so much. But yeah,
I was more worried about saying something bad about me, that I did something bad, but which is fine. I want at the end of the day, I think anybody who truly cares about teaching and their students, I'm not afraid to hear the criticism. I want to know because in my head everything might be going perfect, and I think I'm the greatest and everything's going smoothly. But unless someone speaks up, or I see those eyes, I can't see the eyes online, because in the classroom I can see the eyes of people going. I can see, oh my God, they don't understand what's going on. We're online, the cameras are out. I don't know who's not understanding, right? So, but it's I appreciate I appreciate you guys coming on. I really to put yourself out there and share your experience. I appreciate it a lot. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
You're
I
welcome.
totally appreciate that. And and we wish you all the best moving forward in your apprenticeship and in your careers. And it's never easy to start or transition into anything new. And so we wish you all the best as you move forward. Thanks again for taking the time and your transparency and your clarity around some of this stuff. And we look forward to implementing some of the stuff that we've learned from you today, because we've learned from you. And this is an important part of how we feel about doing online education. It's not just me dumping onto you. It's both of us learning together, and appreciate your time, both of you.
I appreciate you guys having us. So I hope you get something out of us that you'll take.
Oh yeah, don't worry. No, we've got some stuff. It's all good.
All right.
It's all good. Good. Awesome.